Over the years, as more people in more places begin using the internet recreationally, there's been an increase in online censorship. In 2008, one of the greatest wars in internet history was waged because of this exact topic. The war wasn't fought with guns or bombs. It was fought with memes and protests, and more importantly, it ushered in the rise of Anonymous. Anonymous is a digital consciousness that spawned from the boards of 4chan. A worldwide hive mind. It's a culture, a political, and a social movement all in one. It's a massive group of internet users with various backgrounds and different computing skills, all with something in common, like a belief or an interest. Anonymous doesn't care about your past or your ethnicity, or even your sexual orientation for that matter. All those things are put aside for the collective goal. As with any subculture on the internet, Anonymous didn't rise because of one single moment, but more of a series of events. And one of the most notable events in relation to Anonymous was Project Chanology. On January 14, 2008, a video produced by the Church of Scientology featuring an interview with Tom Cruise was posted on YouTube. The 9-minute video was cut from a much longer interview that took place, and because of the subject matter was immediately passed around the internet.
I think it's a privilege to call yourself a Scientologist, and it's something that you have to earn. And because a Scientologist does, he or she has the ability to create new and better realities and improve conditions. We are the authorities on getting people off drugs. We are the authorities on the mind. We are the authorities on improving conditions. Criminon, we can rehabilitate criminals. Way to happiness, we can bring peace and unite cultures. Because they don't come up to me. They do that. They won't do it to me. Not to my face, you know, or anywhere in my vicinity where they feel they can be confronted. And I have to tell you something. It is, you know, it's rough and tumble, and it's wild and woolly, and it's a blast. It's a blast. It really is fun.
The Church of Scientology, fearing how this would betray them, filed a DMCA notice and threatened YouTube with litigation, pressuring them to eventually remove the video. But all that did was make it worse. Let me introduce you to the Streisand effect, which refers to the unintended consequences of further publicizing information by trying to hide or censor it. Instead of successfully removing the information from the public, it becomes more widely available than before. Because, well, hiding something just makes more people want to see it. Even though the video was removed from YouTube, it didn't really matter. Because once something's on the internet, you can't get it off. And this video was re-uploaded to Gawker.com. The collective internet was stunned by the church's DMCA notice, and many of them took it as a hit to free speech and censorship. In doing so, they caught the attention of Anonymous, which saw these attempts as attack on censorship. Anonymous also took issue with the church itself, which they view as nothing more than a pyramid scheme ran by a money-grabbing cult leader. So the internet rolled up its sleeves and it did what it does best. They trolled. First, there was denial of service attacks, which interfered with the church's website. Next, there were prank phone calls and orders for pizza sent to church offices all around the world. They used every dirty rating trick they could think of. Anything to disrupt the church's day-to-day functioning. And as a result of the DDoS attacks, they actually managed to momentarily take the Scientology website down. But this wasn't enough. Trolling and raiding just aren't good enough. Not enough people were involved. They needed to take this from the boards of 4chan to the masses. January 21st, a mere 3 days from the start of the attack, Anonymous introduced themselves to the mainstream world.
Hello, leaders of Scientology. We are Anonymous. Over the years, we have been watching you, your campaigns of misinformation, your suppression of dissent, your litigious nature. All of these things have caught our eye. With the leakage of your latest propaganda video into mainstream circulation, the extent of your malign influence over those who have come to trust you as leaders has been made clear to us. Anonymous has therefore decided that your organization should be destroyed. For the good of your followers, for the good of mankind and for our own enjoyment, we shall proceed to expel you from the internet and systematically dismantle the Church of Scientology in its present form. We recognize you as serious opponents, and do not expect our campaign to be completed in a short time frame. However, you will not prevail forever against the angry masses of the body politic. Your choice of methods, Your hypocrisy and the general artlessness of your organization have sounded its death knell. You have nowhere to hide. Because we are everywhere. You will find no recourse in attack. Because for each of us that falls, 10 more will take his place. We are cognizant of the many who may decry our methods as parallel to those of the Church of Scientology. Those who espouse the obvious truth that your organization will use the actions of Anonymous as an example of the persecution of which you have for so long warned your followers. This is acceptable to Anonymous. In fact, it is encouraged. We are your SPs. Over time, as we begin to merge our pulse with that of your church, the suppression of your followers will become increasingly difficult to maintain. Believers will become aware that salvation needn't come at the expense of their livelihood. They will become aware that the stress and the frustration that they feel is not due to us, but a source much closer to them. Yes, we are SPs, but the sum of suppression we could ever muster is eclipsed by that of your own RTC. Knowledge is free. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Not only did this increase the interest in Anonymous, but the message managed to make its way right to the church, and on January 26th they responded. The church claimed that the removed video featured selective and out-of-context segments with the intent of creating both controversy and ridicule. While they were right about one thing, they did get ridiculed.
Like, have you met an SP?
Anonymous once again rose to this occasion. The very next day, a second video entitled Call to Action was uploaded to YouTube by an anonymous member, calling for protest outside of the Church of Scientology centers.
It has come to the attention of Anonymous that there are a number of you out there who do not clearly understand what we are, or why we have undertaken our present course of action. Contrary to the assumptions of the media, Anonymous is not simply a group of super hackers. Anonymous is a collective of individuals united by an awareness that someone must do the right thing, that someone must bring light to the darkness, that someone must open the eyes of a public that has slumbered for far too long. Among our numbers you will find individuals from all walks of life, lawyers, parents, IT professionals, members of law enforcement, college students, veterinary technicians and more. Anonymous is everyone and everywhere. We have no leaders, no single entity directing us, only the collective outrage of individuals, guiding our hand in the current efforts to bring awareness. We want you to be aware of the very real dangers of Scientology. We want you to know about the gross human rights violations committed by this cult. We want you to know about Lisa McPherson. We want you to know about former members of Scientology's private navy, Sea Org, who were forced to have abortions so that they could continue in service to the church. We want you to know about Scientology's use of child labor and their gulags. We want you to know about Operation Freakout and Paulette Cooper. We want you to know about Operation Snow White and Scientology's efforts to infiltrate the government of the United States of America. We want you to know about all of these things that have been swept under the rug for far too long. The information is out there. It is yours for the taking. Arm yourself with knowledge. Be very wary of the 10th of February. Anonymous invites you to join us in an act of solidarity. Anonymous invites you to take up the banner of free speech, of human rights, of family and freedom. Join us in protest outside of Scientology centers worldwide. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. We will be heard. Expect us.
Project Chanology was now in full motion. Protesting began immediately. Different members took it upon themselves to organize small protests outside of their local churches of Scientology. On February 2nd, 150 people gathered outside of the church center in Orlando. Several small protests were also held in Santa Barbara, California, and even Manchester, England. The reach of the movement was obviously picking up speed. Protesters in Orlando carried signs with messages, "Knowledge is free," and "Honk if you hate Scientology." The protesters called the church a dangerous cult, and they said the organization is responsible for crimes and deaths. News outlets reported that the protest was part of a worldwide campaign by a group that calls himself Anonymous. Protesters at demonstrations wore masks in homage to Guy Fawkes, and they said they were attempting to inform the public about what they believed to be a restriction of free speech and profiting through pyramid schemes by the church. They made it clear that they were not protesting the church's ideals, but rather the actions of the individual Scientologists themselves. On February 10th, 7,000 anonymous members from 100 different cities across the globe came together to protest in front of the Scientology churches. These February protests marked the first time the entire anonymous collective organized an action that took place off the internet. February 10th was meant to coincide with the birthday of Lisa McPherson, a woman who died of a pulmonary embolism while under the care of one of the Church of Scientology's unlicensed doctors. Anonymous stood strong, but this was just the start of the movement. After the success of the first protests, Anonymous organized another set to take place on March 15th, L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, also referred to as the Ideas of March. These protests drew in another 7,000 Anonymous members across the globe. For the next year, protest after protest was held and both sides experienced losses. Many Anonymous members were charged with harassment and trespassing. And with the movement now slowing, Anonymous would have one last attempt to hit Scientology where it hurts, in the tax exemption. The group shifted strategies and started lobbying for the IRS to investigate Scientology. This was a lofty goal. Unfortunately, they were never able to achieve it. The war against Scientology was at a standstill, and after nearly 2 years of intermittent pranks and hacking, Anonymous got tired of Project Chanology and mostly ceased activities against the church. Even though some consider Project Chanology a failure because they were never able to achieve their initial goal, they were able to open the door for others to criticize Scientology and call upon the hypocrisy that they see. Many would continue the fight right where Anonymous left off, and as for the members of Anonymous themselves, some returned to their corners of the internet to wait and watch. Some continued their ops in different fronts, but all waited for the next time that they would have to don the Guy Fawkes mask to be the voice of the unspoken.